Good morning. It's 8 o'clock and we're at the intersection. And I'm hearing a little chatter. So if you happen to have your mic open, I encourage you to consider closing that, because I think then we'll all have better sound. We're all going to keep our hands crossed this morning. I've had some computer difficulties, but I think we've got it functioning for this morning, and that's what's key, because I don't want to miss Thursday morning with all of you. We're going to start, though, while we're waiting for a few more people to come in, with a recording of Archbishop Gustavo and about pathways to hope. So, Bill, if you want to cue that up, I'd appreciate it.
Friends and faithful San Antonians, a year ago, this past May, we recall the tragedy at Robb Elementary School and the suffering of our neighbors in Uvalde. Since then, I have continually visited there to bring comfort and prayer to their hearts. I remember a family I went to visit and how accompaniment, prayer, and care in silence brought some peace and consolation to them. They remind me that we need each other to heal. We need each other to get better. This month, San Antonians and other neighbors from 14 cities across the United States are gathering to learn and work as much larger compassionate community, because we all know we are better together, mejores unidos. I encourage you to attend this year's Pathways to Hope Mental Wellness Conference at the beautiful Tobin Center in downtown San Antonio, August 25th and 26th. The conference is free, and it will be a missed opportunity if our congregations and communities are not there. Please register to attend Pathways to Hope.
Thank you, Bill. And if you all have like faith leaders that you're connected with or are one of those, you might want to forward that video to them. I sent it out, I think, yesterday, but I'll keep sending it out to folks. And I appreciate Archbishop Gustavo doing that for us. Doug, did you want to say anything about Pathways to Hope? I know that you've put into chat where the registration is.
Yeah, the link is there. We have just an excellent group of workshops here. We're going to talk about things like substance use, incarceration and how to enter the community after being incarcerated, housing, but a lot of things that really affect people's mental health and affect their ability to move to recovery. And it absolutely takes the entire community to help people who are dealing with mental health issues get back into society and into the community and live a full and productive life. So great, it's a great conference for hope, and so be sure and come. And the agenda is on the website. When you register, you can see what the workshops are.
Thanks, Doug. I noticed too that Bill put the video link in chat of Archbishop Gustavo. So I encourage you to copy that link and paste it, somewhere on a Word doc or something, so you can come back to it and utilize it while you're inviting others and encouraging, especially our faith and community leaders to come. Jerry Gregory has also put some information in there in the chat as well. Let's see if Melissa is here yet. I do not see her. Let me check Any other announcements while I'm checking to see if our councilwoman is having difficulty? I don't see anything. Boy, you're a quiet batch this morning. What's that about?
We're all on mute.
We're all on mute. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't normally do that, but I did hear some, fluttering around. Some upcoming dates. I don't see anything from the councilwoman. She's very excited about being here, but I'm hoping she's not having computer issues like me. Some upcoming, what I think are important dates. The Tuesday before Thanksgiving, I believe, is November 21st. And I encourage you to mark your calendars. We're doing a citywide food drive, but also a citywide interfaith gathering. It starts at 4, but there are different elements and you can come at different times. But the final gathering will be at 7 p.m. So mark that. This coming year will be the first time that San Antonio will host a festival of faiths in our city. There are a couple other cities across the country, so we're picking that model up from elsewhere. Louisville has a really strong festival of faiths, and people come from all over the globe to participate in that. Quality work and education, as well as relationship building and celebration. That's going to be in January. Off the top of my head, it's the 3rd Sunday in January, which should be in the 20-somethings, but we've got some time between here and there. And I just want to put that into our thoughts. So let's see.
Gary,
Oh.
Ann, I have an announcement.
Okay.
NAMI and the District 2 congregations and pastors will be having a wellness fair September the 30th on suicide prevention. We are in the presentation. It will be at Second Baptist. So we want to invite everyone to that. We will be having a flyer soon. So put that on your calendar, September the 30th. We would love to see everybody, not just those in District 2, but you all come and be a part of that. It'll start at 8:45 and it would end about 2 o'clock. And we're going to have some phenomenal speakers. So please be a part of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emma. Other announcements?
Martha
We're
Ann.
waiting on the councilwoman. Go ahead.
In the chat box, you can see a link. Compassionate USA is a wonderful series that any of us can work with on our own at any time. But if you would like to join a group of people discussing it, we'll have this on Thursday evening, 7 to 8. Already we have a nice little group of high school and elementary school teachers that want to be in the discussion. And so spread the word. Anyone is welcome and you can register there.
Thank you, Martha Ann. Other announcements?
I got one, Ann.
Awesome, Sammy.
Yeah, this Saturday we are having the East Side Alive resource fair down at 1616 East Commerce, which is the property where the AIT has our indigenous campus. It's being sponsored by West Care, and we're gonna have some music, snacks, drinks, many local organizations. We'll be doing some free back to school giveaways. We're gonna have $200 in raffles. AIT is going to be connecting people to community resources for health, finances, and safety. Supposed to be a lot of people. We're expecting, I think we already RSVP'd over 250 people. So anybody interested in hitting our campus this Saturday, it's going to be from 10 a.m. to 2. The first 100 people that show up get a burger from our neighbor. It's connected to our building. I think it's Mark's Outing. We all are familiar with that nice little burger joint. They're going to be giving out 150 hamburgers for the first 150 people. So show up early if you want a burger.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Ann.
So I see that our councilwoman is with us. Good morning. And I want to jump in because we've got lots that we want to cover. And I've asked Doug from last week if he could just summarize for all of us. And our councilwoman, Melissa, thanks for being with us this morning. But summarize the recommendations that we heard about last week in terms of public safety and those who have mental health concerns and how that's approached. So Doug, if you wouldn't mind giving us a couple minute summary of that recommendation.
Sure. I'm trying to pull it up here. Just a second. First of all, thank you for being here today. I'm the executive director for NAMI San Antonio. And here we go. Taking me just a moment. And, you know, our members are families who have somebody that they care for, who has a mental health issue, or people living with a mental health diagnosis. And here we go. Here it is. So we have one of the things that we do is we take phone calls from people. And one of the things that we hear a lot about is I called for a mental health officer. I called for somebody from the mental health unit and I got a patrol unit. Or when I got a patrol unit, I didn't necessarily have a very good experience. And however, on the flip side, when people have had a mental health officer return that call or go out to somebody's home, they've had they've had excellent response. And what it points up to us, and I didn't know until recently, that SAPD had changed their protocol such that the first response to mental health calls is a patrol unit and not a mental health unit. And I think that's unfortunate. So what I did is I've looked at other cities recently to see, well, how do other cities respond to mental health calls? And I found two in particular. One is the Denver program, Denver STAR program, which uses what they call a community response unit made up of an EMT and a social worker or behavioral health professional. And their fallback is a mental health unit with one trained mental health officer and an EMT or behavioral health professional. They've answered over 30,000 calls without a shooting and without a death. And the only times that they have to arrest anybody typically is when they have a felony arrest warrant outstanding. So they've had, and they've been doing this program for several years. The other one that I talked to was the LAPD. They use a co-responder model. What they do is they send out simultaneously, they send out a patrol unit with a multidisciplinary unit that can arrive on the scene at the same time. I think one of the other things I found interesting in Denver is that they don't just use their Denver Police Department, they also use their fire department, public safety, parks department, so that when they're sending somebody besides a patrol officer, it gives you a little bit broader ability to respond. Also, I want to just point out that for quite some time, CHCS has been responding through their mental crisis outreach team, MCOT, without a police or sheriff's officer. So we have experience in doing this. The experience with SA Corps and with the SMART teams from the county has really been good, but we haven't expanded those. Our experience with mental health officers making those calls has been excellent, but we haven't provided that we haven't provided that citywide on a first call response basis. So I wanted to bring these options up to you, Councilwoman, and tell you that what we're doing is responding to what we hear in the community, and these are not isolated incidences.
So
let me open it
Councilwoman,
up.
Yeah. Councilwoman, do you have a response or thoughts that we want to make this as conversational as possible? And so,
Yeah.
and thank you so much for being with us this
Of
morning.
course, my apologies for being late. So just very quickly, and thank you everybody for taking time today. Doug, thank you so much. I know you do incredible work here, and I appreciate all of the work that you've done. I think I've always said that if there's any silver lining from the pandemic, it's that we're all talking about mental health. I have been involved in mental health for a very long time. My other job, I'm a disability attorney, and getting people in front of a judge and getting a judge to believe that mental health issues are just as important and significant and debilitating as physical issues. Although I hesitate to say that because I think mental health issues are still physical issues. It's very difficult. So I've been working in this space for 15 years. And I really am appreciative that there is an open public space to talk about these more now. Specifically to what you're talking about, Doug, the Denver STAR model. When we got ARPA funds, and I know a lot of you know this or even involved, but the mayor gave 26 million of ARPA dollars to our public safety committee to allocate in the community. I'm chair of our public safety, and I directed every penny of that 26 million towards mental health, because I think that is also public safety. And as we know, we all know here on this call, it absolutely is public safety. So one of the models that came to me very early on was the Denver STAR model. And we tried to emulate that as closely as we can, given very honestly other political pressures. There were, we have a model of it. It's called Crisis Intervention Team, we call it CIT, where if you're calling 911, the biggest change for me was if you're calling 911, they normally ask fire, police, EMT. Now they'll ask you fire, police, EMT, mental health. So it gets diverted away directly from just going to, fire, police, EMT. When you all know, when family members call because their loved one is having a mental health episode, they call 911 sometimes and they ask for police because they don't know who else to ask for. So now they have that option. When you ask for the mental health and it gets sort of triaged there with the city, at the city call center, it goes to the CIT, Crisis Intervention Team. Now, the reason I say the political pressures is because there are community members, there are people that live in our city that still want a police officer to go out. And there are some that don't want a police officer there at all. And I see both sides of it, honestly. But I thought, if you're going to have a truly mental health care response, then a uniformed officer is not the best, maybe look, right? When you're already feeling scared and in danger when you're having a mental health episode. So right now, the police officer is still in that team, but we have a licensed healthcare professionals and social workers, and but it's just one team. So right now it's a limitation of funding, but we had, I want to say it was $1 million. The pilot anyway was $1 million, but now that's expanded. And this year we're looking at adding 2 more teams. The bigger, and it's a step, they're incremental steps. I would like to put Denver model right into place. And I didn't know those stats, Doug. I'll say what did you say, 30,000 calls?
Yeah.
Is that in a year or all time?
That was over, it was in between 1 and 2 years, and I'll have to look back at my notes.
That's pretty incredible, because we all know that a lot of these issues start with mental health impairment. So that's where I'd like to see us move to more closer depiction, I guess, or of the Denver STAR model. But we've taken these steps forward, and we are looking this year to expand it to 2 more teams. We'll have 3. The bigger issue for us early on, we, a lot of council members, and especially those of us in public safety, wanted to jump in with both feet. Let's just have a model. But we had to, of course, we have to listen to the community, and it's and funding. And so it was a model that was like kind of during the daytime, like 9 to 6. Well, we all know that mental health episodes don't have a clock, right? They happen when they happen. And unfortunately, a lot of times they happen in the evening for various reasons. So that's the first thing we expanded was hours, and now we're trying to expand the teams. What I will say is all of your advocacy has been really important. When I say political pressure, maybe I shouldn't have called it that, but because it really is community pressure, community support that we need. So all of you and all of your networks wanting to see us move closer to the Denver model, that's what I want to see in our community. I think that most of our council members, even the new council, I think they see the importance. So we are moving incrementally towards that, but we're not there. So I will ask all of you for your advocacy and also to talk with me, sit down with me, meet with me, talk about what else is out there. I learned the Denver model from community members. I didn't know that on my own. So anyway, I invite you all to have those conversations with me so we can figure out a way to go. Now, we don't have ARPA funding anymore. So now we're looking at making this a city budget, which is great because once it's a line item in the budget, then we have that every year and we can, in my world, we're expanding it every year. But of course, I'd like to hear your feedback.
I want to go ahead and open it up for other comments. And Bill, if you can watch for raised hands, that would be great for me in my limited computer access. So, Doug, did you have any initial comments for the councilwoman?
I think, there's three options we talked about. One of these, but the middle option where we have a mental health unit, trained SAPD officers who work the mental health unit, who are selected because of their temperament and because of their interest in working out in the field with people with mental health. I've had to make those calls on my family member. I've experienced what it's like to have a mental health unit officer come out, and they were outstanding. At the time, they were in the CIT unit, but the mental health officers, that's a kind of a middle ground. You still have somebody who is an authorized peace officer, and it's not just all civilian. But I feel like we could expand the mental health unit to have more units. We did, and distribute them out. That's the other thing. Distribute them out through the county or through the city, so that there's better distribution for those calls. So that's one option. And again, I'll say that the mental health unit officers, they do a great job. The Denver STAR program, where you have somebody that's not a peace officer on the team, that's something we can migrate to. But in the meantime, we still have this option of expanding the mental health unit.
I also want to ask Councilwoman, so it's great about the 26 million ARPA dollars going into mental health. And then shortly after that, when you talked about increasing these units, then there was a shortage in funding. Maybe it would be helpful for folks to hear, just in general terms, where those ARPA dollars went.
Sure.
Not so much as in terms of accountability, but so we can know how are those dollars being invested.
Absolutely, you're right. And you're right. I should have clarified that a little better, because we set aside some money for the CIT, but the vast majority of those dollars went to nonprofits that are already out there doing that work. So, the city is not in the business of mental health care, nor should we be, because, we need y'all to do it. Y'all are the professionals. We need people with credentials, people who are community leaders, and that's what we did. We gave every dollar of that money, other than the CIT, where we seeded the CIT. In the beginning, of course, it was a pilot, but has been proven to have been very successful. And I'm glad to hear that testimony, Doug, about that somebody out in the field, that they have been successful. The vast majority went to nonprofits that are already out there doing that work. A lot of it went even to mental health care providers for existence, people that do autism testing. They were 18 months behind because of the pandemic, and these ARPA dollars were resiliency. They were to bounce back from the pandemic, so it went towards that. A lot of funds went to a lot of other nonprofits that are out there in the trenches kind of doing the work. So that's exactly where the vast majority of the money went. And then we set aside this for the CIT to run this pilot program. We all knew it would be successful based on the other models that are out there, but you can't, we have to sell the city on it and the community on it. So we had to kind of take these incremental steps. And I like the way you put it, Doug, we're migrating towards it. But that's where most of the money went, is to nonprofits already out there doing the work. And they, some of them were agencies that had already worked with the city. Many of them were not. And so I wanted to make sure that we were bringing in nonprofits that had not previously received money from the city. This was a one-time huge, amount of money that we put out into the community. And 26 million is a huge amount, don't get me wrong. But when it comes to mental health care in a city our size, it was kind of a drop in the bucket. We have received a lot more funding from a lot more sources. So that's why I get excited about including it in the city budget, and why I'm excited that we're, as a community, having these conversations, because it shows your representatives and city staff, this is important to us and we need to fund it. So ongoing money, another big pot of 26 million, I doubt is going to come our way, but we used it to help all of those nonprofits get back on track to help the community.
Thanks. I know that Peter has his hand up. Maybe somebody could pull out the acronym CIT for everybody and put that into chat. We also have a compassionate integrity training, that's CIT, but I know you're referring to something else. So
Crisis intervention team.
thank you. Peter, you have a question.
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Ann, and thank you, Councilwoman, for your service and for your leadership of the Public Safety Committee.
Thank you, sir.
Last week we had a really good briefing, and I'm really happy to hear that you're very aware of the Denver Star, and really think that's a really good model. Our ministry launched NAMI Bridges to Care wellness program just this year, and of course I'm an advocate for that, and of course Doug has been an awesome leader of expanding that throughout the city. So my question, a couple of questions involved with grant funding. So that was brought up as far as the budget and being able to plug and play into like the CIT, how we could expand that. And also, do you foresee any challenges with the police contract that could hinder the implementation?
Well, we are very much, that's a good point. And I'm sorry, before tell me again, did you say Army Bridges to Care? Is that
NAMI.
NAMI.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
NAMI. Yeah, I'm sorry. NAMI.
Got it. Okay, sorry. I want to look more into that. There are challenges for this city because we have to adhere to our contract. Obviously, we want to take care of our police officers, and I've even focused a lot of our effort on the mental health of our police officers. If they're not well and they're going out to the community, that's difficult for all of us, for all of the community. So not just dollars that go towards our community as a whole, but also our first responders, both police and fire. And very honestly, also our ACS officers, because our animal care service officers sometimes deal with very harrowing events as well. But the challenge with the contract is not so much will. I mean, I think every police officer out there, most of them will say mental health is a crisis in our city. We want to help. We want to do our part. The problem is that we only have so much time for training. We only have so many hours, I'll say, for training police officers, for funding that training. When I very first got elected, one of the first things I did was sit down with SAPOA and ask them about mental health for their first responders, just given my history, in the legal world. And I got a lot of pushback early on. There's different leadership now, that leadership with SAPOA, and I think with the organization of police department understands the need for mental health care for our community and for their officers. And so I am still kind of focused on that. I think that the biggest challenge is, as always, y'all know this in all your organizations, is funding. They only have, so when they go through academy, they go through so many hours of training. And what I've tried to install is, one of my first, initiatives I tried to do was giving them sort of a tap out, right? I called it a tap out. When a lot of us, when we're having we've maybe had a bad meeting, or we're with a client and it's just they're having a rough time, and it impresses upon your emotional health, you kind of go away, you take 2 minutes, breathe in and out, do all the things that we need to do. Our officers don't always get to do that. So what I said was, why don't we give them, like, maybe they had a really scary traffic stop. I mean, maybe they just saw something really violent. It didn't amount maybe to a shooting, which is where they do get pulled off the street and get that time. But maybe it was a really scary event. They have to go right to the next call. They don't have a minute to take that time and really gather themselves and take that time to get better. So when I asked was, let's get them more training initially, let's give them time during the year where they can go talk to their mental health care providers privately or the one the city provides. And it got shut down. It was funding for the training, you know, so that's really where the contract comes into play is the hours that they train, all that's in the contract, you know, that there's only so much time, there's only so many things. And then, you know, maybe there are certain police officers or their leadership that will say, I get it, we need training for that, but I also need training on this. And so then we start to compete for mental health care training and, you know, whatever other training they need, which is a lot of stuff I know. So it's very difficult to navigate around that. I firmly believe, though, you keep pushing. I mean, I've been talking about this now for over 4 years, and we're finally seeing really movement on it. But it's to keep pushing. What I will say right now is, as opposed to other administrations, I do believe that right now there is a belief and a will from, again, the police department, from their union, from city staff, I think from even this council, to make sure that our officers are being taken care of. And then, and of course, our community. But when our officers are in a better mental health care state, then they are, I think, better on the streets, right? So, so I don't know if that answers your question. It is a real challenge, but a lot of it is training and funding, and hours of training and funding.
No, thank you very much. So.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Thank you. And we're at the half hour. Councilwoman, are you able to stay with us just a little bit longer?
Yeah, probably another until about 8:40. Yeah.
That's great. So we're just going to take a brief pause for others who may need to leave at this time. We could commit and respect compassionately people's time. Next week, we're going to be hearing from Maria Villagomez, and she's going to be giving us a briefing on the 2024 fiscal budget for the city. So I really encourage people to attend and to bring as many folks with you as possible. So hope to see you then next Thursday for those who are listening.
Maria is incredible. She's crazy smart.
Oh, well, she's one of our favorites here. She's been here several times.
Oh, good.
And so, yeah, she is good, and she knows her stuff about budget too. Doug, I'm also going to ask if you would please send one pager or some tight content to the councilwoman about Bridges to Care. It's an amazing project within NAMI and the faith community in all the council districts, cohorts of congregations, all trained in mental health. So Doug, if you could send that her way, I'm sure she would appreciate it.
Thank you.
Do we have other thoughts or questions in the next 7 minutes? Again, we're
and I can jump in here real quick. I have a
okay.
question.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Councilwoman, for coming today. It's a pleasure to see you again. So the my question is a little more kind of broad, and I'm curious if you're aware of, are there people that are opposed to this course of action in the CIT in the city, and without naming names, and you know,
Sure.
you have your, you know, you have to be, you know, careful of that, but
Sure.
you know, what are the oppositions to this, and how do we counter that? You know, to make sure that a program that seems to be working continues to be funded and moving forward.
I think the initial pushback was, you know, it's not going to work. You need a police officer, a uniformed police officer with a weapon at every call. You know, there was some of that early on. I think because we've seen that it's been successful. And I do, the best testimony to me comes from community members that have gone through it, and they're coming back and saying, yeah, it actually worked really well. Because you can give me stats and all day long, and I do believe in statistics. However, the people that are going through it are really, I would like to hear more from them. Whether it's successful or there's been or not successful, I'd like to know that too. But anyway, the initial pushback was about having uniformed officers with their weapon. You know, I know some of the conversation here today has been precipitated by what happened to the young lady, Melissa. I know she shared my name. And a lot of people asking why didn't the CIT go out there? And I asked that question, and the fact of the matter is they weren't available, which is why so many more and units are needed and more hours. And So I think things like this are being seen as missed, well, I was gonna say missed opportunity, but I don't want to downplay what happened to her and her family. It's not, it's more than obviously a missed opportunity. It was a tragic event, but we could, that could have turned out differently maybe, right? If we'd had the CIT there. So a lot of the pushback is, well, you do have mental health episodes and families call about their loved ones. It's not all, I mean, I would say the vast majority are loved ones that are calling for their own and their loved one's safety. It's not a stranger calling for somebody down the street normally. But the pushback was, what if that person does have a knife? What if that person has a gun? What if that person is threatening somebody else? And so, and there you're going to send out somebody who's unarmed, who's not uniformed. And I keep mentioning uniform because there is that air of authority, right? When you have the blue uniform, and justly so. The thing is I think when I answer that question to them, I say, well, if somebody is threatening somebody already and they have a gun or a knife or somebody's in danger, then it's not just a mental health call. It's still that regular public safety call, and a uniformed police officer will be out there. I mean, the safety of all the people involved is of utmost importance. So a lot of the pushback was, I think, just because of not being informed about what the CIT could be, about what Denver Star is. I remember Denver Star came to us from an organized community, a group of organizers, and just by virtue of where it came from, there was pushback, right away. It came from an organizer and their group. No, we don't want anything to do with that, right? And once you learned about it, it's like anything else, right? Change, not everybody likes change, or they resist change when it's not what they know. But now that I think we're proving that it works and we're migrating towards it. I love that phrase. I think that we're proving it out a little better. And I'll say this, that there was maybe 25% pushback, 75%, let's do something. We're in a crisis, let's try it. So that really was the main issue, was having somebody, a police officer out there with a uniform and a gun, really, that could show that authority and that force. And I think what we were saying on the other side of that coin was, you could push that somewhat manageable episode into a violent episode with all of those factors, right? Just because you feel threatened some people feel threatened when you see a uniform or a gun. And I'll say that too, remember that a lot of this was happening, the pandemic was happening at the time George Floyd was killed. So, I mean, that was a big part of the conversation, race and class and socioeconomic status, all of that was a big part of that conversation, and it should have been. But anyway, that's the pushback that we got initially. I don't see a lot of pushback anymore. At this point, it's finding the money. And so I think we have, for the last couple of years, we've all been a lot more open to it. I do want to mention just very briefly too, I don't know if you guys saw Judge Lina Hidalgo in Houston. She took a sabbatical from her as county judge to deal with her mental health. I just thought that was the most amazing thing, so brave. And I want to be in a space where we don't think that's brave anymore. That's normal. You take time to go take care of yourself, right? If she was having a surgery, nobody would say anything about being gone for a month. But this is the same thing. It's still a health issue. So anyway, I mentioned that just to say that we did get a lot of pushback earlier, and now we're to the point where big time, she's big time over there in Houston, right? Big time public officials are able to say this without that stigma or losing her job. I went a little off track there, but that was important to say.
And I'm just going to go ahead and close because it's 8:39 and I know you need to go. I do want to encourage you, Councilwoman, to give us a call. If there are conversations that are happening within Public Safety Committee that you want to talk to the community about and roll it around and get more ideas or anything, we're here. So just give a call. Last week, no, it was a week before, I think, Councilman Courage came. He had called about a weapons exchange. And so, this is a great spot. We meet weekly and have been since the beginning of COVID. So just let us know.
You
I
know,
know you have-
I'll take you up on that. When there's any initiative I'm thinking about, you're a community group. I like the first thing I do is go out to the community. What do you think? Because I may be wrong. Maybe it's not a good idea, right? So I would love to bring those things to you and have you vet them in a way, or at least work through them with me.
That'd be great.
Opportunity. Yeah.
So have fun today at
Thank
City
you.
Council. I
Thank you
know
very
you're
much.
all working on budget and
Yes,
other
ma'am.
important items. So thank you for being with us. And I'm
honor.
going to close out with everyone. Have a great days, a great weekend, and we'll see you next week while we talk about the city budget. Take care.
Thank
you.
Take care. Bye-bye.